this one I think maybe Billy might agree with. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe their coach to be an idiot. Just from the sound bites.
You're not the only one.
From what people have said about him. And when do we ever hear when they hire somebody like, this guy's not very smart?
The quarterback management at the end of the 2020 season was the biggest head scratcher I think we'd seen last year. Made no sense. And now they're rumored to want Deshaun Watson in Philadelphia, but you just put all your eggs in the Jalen Hurts basket. So even if you don't get Deshaun Watson,
Jess, there's some eggs in the Flacco basket.
there are no eggs in the Flacco basket, Mike.
He looks like a bird, and yes, their head coach, what is it, Sirianni? I'm not exactly sure. He is reputed to be an idiot. He won't name a starter. There's a chance that Joe Flacco starts for them.
If I'm Jalen Hurts, I just feel like shit. Like, how do you not just feel like shit about all of this? You just feel like shit. Right, Billy?
Yeah. Why does everyone think I'm an Eagles expert today?
You were just like giggling in the corner. It
You're
felt like
laughing. You got a giant smile on your face. So
there's always some eggs in the.
Well, I was just going to ask you to put that on the poll at Batard Show. Are there any eggs in the Flacco basket? And I was going to go there, but twice you fooled the group because you're on the Zoom and you've got a giant smile on your face. Like this Eagles topic is something you've been waiting for your entire life. Both Mike and Jessica thought that you wanted to speak.
I'm just enjoying it, man. Good Eagles talk. Yeah. Birds.
Nick Sirianni. And the reason why I think Billy might be into it is with the return of football season is the return of the useless sound montage. And I think Nick Sirianni is going to feature prominently.
You think he's going to be a star?
Got high hopes for this young man.
That is number 5. We don't know what their quarterback situation is, but it could be any one of 3 puzzling choices. It could be Deshaun Watson. It could be Jalen Hurts. It could be Joe Flacco.
And they have the Heisman Trophy winner, Dan. Interesting little team over there in Philadelphia.
They're going to be terrible, aren't they?
Perhaps.
They're simply going to be terrible.
With that head coach, I feel strongly that.
No, and that quarterback situation.
I like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had a decent game. They didn't let him fly, and then they benched him. It was weird. Like Jess said, it was the weirdest quarterback management towards the end of the season. They gifted Washington a playoff spot.
And their division just sucks. Like, I just am not looking forward to watching, like, Eagles-Giants games. No offense to, like, all of my friends in New York, but holy shit. I watched so many Giants games last year. I can't do that again.
Before we get to the rest of the top 5, and I may be speaking ignorantly here because I have not done anything in the way of data crunching on Jalen Hurts. But I believe the standard at quarterback and the way that we measure young quarterbacks has moved. So you guys are getting fooled by thinking guys are better than they are just because as young people, they can be some semblance of competent, but the competence at starting quarterback has gotten so competent that Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa, and I'm still going to have trouble with his name the rest of my life, but those guys, by looking merely okay, surprise you a little bit, but aren't quite as good as some of the guys doing it at the top of the food chain. So when I look at Jalen Hurts, the fact that he exceeded my expectations, which is he was better than I thought he was, because I'm not expecting those Oklahoma quarterbacks to be much of anything. Baker Mayfield included. I'm not expecting anything from guys who run around and scramble. And so Jalen Hurts was better than I was expecting, but still not good in my opinion.
Oh, he had a great game against Arizona.
He had one great game.
But he also had like 2 starts. So it was infuriating because Wentz was terrible. And they would refuse to put this guy in. And look, their offensive line situation was terrible. Their wide receiver situation was somehow worse. They were trotting out Greg Ward, who was a quarterback at Houston. They had a very bad receiver situation that they addressed in this draft a little bit. But no, Hurts in that game against Arizona, I remember it well because it damn near won me a fantasy championship. It got me to the game, 21-35, 338 through the air, 3 touchdowns through the air, and 60 yards on the ground. Dano, that's a big game.
Number 4.
Number 4 is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wouldn't now just get in the 4th?
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence, Urban Meyer.
ETN.
What position is he going to play?
Tebow.
This one's super easy.
Is
Dan.
Tebow going to make the team?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, 100%.
No
Practice
way.
squad.
Yeah. No, Joy Taylor mentioned this on the Jim Brockmeyer episode. He's like 8 games away from having a really good severance package. No, it's not a severance package when you're a veteran. Like
Tenure.
yeah, he's got like 8 games away. Like his payments go way up, and Urban Meyer's just taking care of his guy. That's all.
That can't be it.
It's a great theory.
I love Jim Brockmeyer as a news breaking
His
source.
pension. His pension is the word I was looking for.
I love that conspiracy theory. I mean, it might not even be a conspiracy, but I love it.
Yeah, just 8 games. Get me to my pension. And we can all identify with that. Like, just get me through this
Do
line.
we think he's hurting though for money?
Exactly.
Like, he
Does
really
it seem
needs
like hard up?
No, but he's seen shit. All right, this is Lieutenant Murtaugh in Lethal Weapon. Like, he's just like 8 games and I'm out, Riggs.
I love that I made him a Supreme Court justice and like a university professor by giving Tim Tebow tenure. Number 3.
Ricky got 8 year. Green Bay Packers. Ricky got 20 year. Aaron Rodgers potential final last season there, and also Devontae Adams potential final last season because they put up the Last Dance poster, and we'll see what happens. I read, this is a weird report from Adam Schefter, that Jordan Love didn't know how to hard count when they drafted him. So you taught us, Stan. Yeah.
I feel like I could do it right now.
Hut.
Let's go around the room and see if all of you guys know how to hard count. Let's start.
Remember, you can't cheat and like jolt your head forward too much. That's a penalty.
Let's start with Chris Cody.
Blue 80! Blue 80! Check. Set. Hut! That's it.
No, that didn't do it for me. There's room for improvement, though. I'm going to take some notes. All right.
Jessica, would you like to take a
Oh,
shot
man,
at
I
this
was ready to
before?
go.
I know, I can see that
No,
you're ready
like
to
we
go.
gotta let
I was
Mike
ready
go.
to
Mike
go.
is like
No,
gearing
I'm
up
ready
for
to go.
this. Go, Mike.
I mean, wait a minute. Are you squatting into position?
No,
Wow, you're
we're
getting
breaking.
into.
You want me to be your
okay.
center?
Yeah, beat my center. Come here. Hold on.
Yeah, why would you say that?
I didn't need one, but you volunteered for it.
Why would you put it on the poll, Guillermo? Will you ever volunteer to be the center?
Let's do it for the gram. Hang on one second.
Recording in progress.
Let's go.
I was actually a flag football center for a couple seasons.
Okay,
It's a
let's-
sneaky, you go out 8 yards,
A lot
button
of
hook.
lot of
We're all
button hooks.
impressed.
So, I'm gonna need a huddle. So Jess, can you get over here and then we'll break?
And no touching.
Wait a minute. You got to get in there on the center.
So yeah, no COVID huddle. So guys, I'm just gonna hard count to try to get them on sides because my head coach is gutless. We should always go for it. I'm Aaron Rodgers, but instead, I'm just gonna pretend like I'm gonna snap it. I'm just gonna yell hut.
Delay a game here.
All right. Yes. No. You're already 5 yards back, so now you got to get the 5 yards back with the hard count because it did take too
I
long.
feel very vulnerable.
Yes.
I feel very vulnerable right now.
Lambo, it's loud. Let me quiet
Okay.
this
Wait a
down.
minute though. We've got
Whoa!
Jessica is in her stance, but it puts her out of the Zoom entirely. Our left guard is no longer in the
3-point
Zoom.
stance, Dan.
All right. My center, per my request, has a towel on his back hip
Yep.
so I can dry my hands because it's a little
Ooh, nice.
moist at Lambeau
Feels
Stadium.
good. Feels good.
Quieting the crowd a little bit. You know, just making it seem like I'm actually going to snap this ball, even though we should always do it because I'm Aaron freaking Rodgers.
I got like 30 seconds here.
Oh, the quads are tight.
His knees are hurting.
Now a little.
Okay.
One of those.
Wow, that's an HR violation.
Wow, that really
You
was.
have to do that. That's a silent count sometimes.
I
I'm
like it.
calling Coach
I
LaFleur.
liked it.
All right.
You like it,
here we
huh?
go. All right. Fat 80. Fat number 80. It's all the help they've given me here. Blue. That hut.
No, wait a minute.
Offside.
Our
False
left guard is
start. False start. That's a
offside.
false start.
I'll start.
That's a false start.
How do we fall?
It was so good. You got me. I false started.
That is true. That's a good hard
It was a
count.
good hard count.
I'm sorry. There were a lot of things that were funny, but nothing funnier to me than the visual of Chris Cody. He began blocking immediately, and he was hitting all the defensive linemen in the nipples. He blocked everyone on the offensive line. He looked. It's also know how you would put something on a shelf with two hands. It wasn't really blocking. It was just organizing a bookshelf. How is it that snap count ended up with you guys losing 5 yards and not delivering the punchline we needed of the hard count?
Number 2 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And number
3?
and number 1.
Number 1 is the New Orleans Saints.
Who's their quarterback going to be?
Exactly. Who's the quarterback going to be? Either way, it's going to be fun. Yeah. Is it Jameis? Is it Taysom Hill? Is it a combination? How smart is Sean Payton? A lot of bad losses on that resume. Can they make the playoffs?
Are you forgetting when you say how fun it could be with Taysom Hill? Because it might be fun with Jameis, but are you forgetting those 16-7 games and how they were trying to hide him all of last season?
Yeah, but they would matriculate the ball. It was a different kind of football, right? It was kind of like, we know that he can't throw the ball very well downfield, and some of that's a bit of a misnomer. He threw some pretty passes in his time in New Orleans, but I'm curious to see how they use them. And they got a lot of primetime games. A lot. Way too many.
The Bills don't crack your top 5, huh?
No, there were a lot of interesting teams. The Bills seem to have a pretty strong anti-vax contingent. And to me, like, if I were to pick one overall impressive storyline from this NFL season, is a lot of players are going to tell on themselves by just trying to avoid the question altogether. How are they going to jeopardize their team? The NFL said, we are no longer going to postpone games. You're going to forfeit a game if you can't field a team over there. So how many more awkward Kirk Cousins instances are we going to have? How many more Cole Beasleys are we going to have? Are we going to have another surge? Are we going to have the weird Wednesday games? I'm very interested in that.
Can we talk a little more about what's happening here with the vaccine? I don't know if you guys saw, but Mississippi is already at a critical state where their hospitals are full and their pediatric units are full. And it's not something that's 5 or 10. The chaos is 5 or 10 days away, but it's here. 5 or 10 days from now, you're going to get to the point where elective surgeries are going to be knocked out entirely. And if you have some sort of emergency, there's not going to be a place to put you in Mississippi. I don't think it's gotten to quite, and Florida's headed there. I don't think it's gotten to quite this critical a state. And you still have Kirk Cousins and a whole lot of other people fighting for what exactly? Just distrust of science, distrust of facts, distrust of all the information that comes before you, just general distrust. Fighting for what when we're talking about something that has been so far, even if you think it's been rushed through and was too quick and we don't know all the side effects, in 5 years, all of the credible people talking about this, it's not a propaganda campaign. It's not a disinformation campaign. It's a whole bunch of credible people telling you that it is safer and that we're a couple of mutations away from not being able to fend this thing off. What is happening here in some place like the NFL? It's just like America or anywhere else. You're going to find 20 or 30% of the people or more of the people who simply will distrust everything and file it under being a freedom fighter.
But you got to give the NFL some credit because they have a higher vaccination rate than the rest of the country by a wide margin. And what they did, which was incentivizing getting the vaccine and making it more difficult for people who aren't getting the vaccine to play, is kind of what a lot of people think the government should be doing. If you want to go out to eat and go to concerts, indoors, go to school, whatever it is, you either need the vaccine or you need to get tested a lot and wear a mask and do things that are going to be a little bit more inconvenient, but ultimately keep everyone safe.
You heard what I just said about Mississippi. Lane Kiffin's football team in Mississippi is 100% vaccinated. Now, you can do that with the power those coaches have in college football because they can force things on you that the NFL can't even force on Kirk Cousins. But I really am confused. I mean, I've been confused for a while here on, if I had told any of you, maybe I'm the idiot here, but if I had told any of you 2 years ago, even amid all of the stupidity and divisiveness that revealed itself overtly, that America is going to be having fist fight arguments about masks. Never mind vaccines, because I can at least understand distrusting so much that you will not put something in your body. But about masks, that I just couldn't have imagined it. I couldn't have imagined that as a country we couldn't find a consensus that was less dumb than that.
I mean, it's a pro-freedom and choice argument, right?
I know, but freedom for what? Freedom to not put something on your face.
Yeah.
Like what?
And to me, like if we're talking about it as it relates to the NFL, the one that I find most offensive is what's happening in Washington. The Washington football team is trailed behind on vaccination rates. As of August 3rd, they're 29th in the NFL. They have a coach who had cancer.
With their coach begging them to do it.
Pleading at a press conference, please, I have to wear this mask because I had cancer, I had radiation, and I am susceptible to this thing. And even still, there's an argument against like pure compassion for your coach, right? You can not respect Ron Rivera, which I don't know why you would, but just on pure human decency, why you wouldn't get the vaccine for your coach is beyond comprehension.
I mean, it just seems like a hellscape if you're unvaccinated, and that's how they've gotten so many players in the NFL to get vaccinated, like Ryan Tannehill saying, I wasn't going to get vaccinated, but they've made this hard. And in college, I don't know if you've seen the COVID protocols that the NCAA rolled out, but you don't have to get tested if you get vaccinated. You only get tested if you report that you have symptoms. And most people these day and age, with a lack of a smoking gun, I'm not allowed to have a head cold? Like, it's just such a breeze if you get vaccinated, as opposed to if you're unvaccinated and the hurdles that you have to clear for that.
You mentioned Jacksonville as one of your interesting teams, and one of the things that I'm going to be eager to see about the Urban Meyer experience in Jacksonville is it is not a small distinction to make to pair the two things together. It's what drove Nick Saban out of Miami and to Alabama. That in Mississippi, Lane Kiffin can get all his players vaccinated, and that Ron Rivera is pleading in press conferences, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. And he doesn't have any real power. Like the power, it seems like he's got real power. He's taken over that franchise. He's cleaned up things. He's made them more credible. He's the face and the voice of a team. But those old dudes, they don't have the same power in professional football that they do in college football. For all his red face, you think Mike Zimmer is saying to himself, I love what Kirk Cousins is doing. I love what my quarterback is doing, but he's got no control over anything.
No, and this actually ties into the Udonis Haslem thing, because why is Tim Tebow on this roster, really? The pension thing? No, what Urban Meyer's trying to do is he's trying to have propagandists on this team in that locker room. He wants culture guys. He's trying to build a culture in Jacksonville, and he's bringing in somebody that he has. The proof is in the pudding with Tim Tebow. I had so much success with this guy. This guy is going to preach my message on the field. He drafts Trevor Lawrence, which is an easy draft pick at number 1. But Trevor Lawrence, if you look into his family background, this is a guy that is cut from that kind of cloth. He's trying to build an impressionable culture over there in Jacksonville to execute what it is that he wants.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Is Tim Tebow making the Jags? Because I have thought that is something that he's going to fiddle around with, but you might be right on that. He might, because the NFL is weird about valuing these 51st and 52nd positions in a way that is pretty extreme. So they're not, I don't believe that he will give Tim Tebow a job just to get him to a pension. Like, he's not trying to do Tim Tebow a solid here. I'm more inclined to believe what you're saying there, which is Urban Meyer knows. I mean, he just talked to Jimmy Johnson. This is a difficult transition for the college dictator to make, because Nick Saban endured it at Miami, where he never won anything, and he was having a hard time getting Jason Taylor to tie his shoes during practice, because Jason Taylor is taking epidurals and falling in a parking lot because of the spinal problems that he's having, and winning Defensive Player of the Year while doing it, and saying, tying my shoes in practice doesn't have anything to do with winning. You don't have to have power over me that way just because you have the power. You don't have to exert it at every turn.
You're more inclined to fall in line if your teammates are doing it. If a 33-year-old Tim Tebow is bending down to tie his shoes because Urban Meyer says something.
Does Tim Tebow have that respect, though, Mike?
He has a cachet. He has a cachet. A lot of those players that are in that locker room were kids when Tim Tebow was putting together one of the greatest collegiate careers ever. He still has an aura about him. I'm not exactly sure if that matters to the guy that's ahead of him on the depth chart, but I do think that there is a value in having your third string tight end just be someone that is going to be a coach on the field for me or in that locker room. He doesn't even have to make the team. Maybe he keeps him as a practice squatter, but his presence there. It's not unlike the argument that you were making for Udonis Haslem, I don't think.
It makes sense as an argument, the way that you're framing it. And I might be totally wrong about this. I think the locker room itself is so tired of the politics of how people get ahead that they value meritocracy. And this guy is not a tight end, and he's never been a tight end. And why is he here? Is what I think a lot of people in that locker room are going to look at. Why is college rah-rah guy here with his college rah-rah mascot? But maybe I'm totally wrong about that. None of it matters if Trevor Lawrence is good, but I don't. I do not think he will make that team.
Nick Saban had to deal with Jason Taylor. Nick Saban had to deal with what surrounded Ricky Williams. He had to deal with Dante Culpepper. These are guys that had a very big time reputation in the league before Nick Saban got there. Name me the veteran presence on the Jacksonville Jags. Better yet, name me 2 Jacksonville Jags.
Name you Tim Tebow is the veteran presence as a Jacksonville Jag?
Certainly by age and by tenure. I like Miles Jack. Is Miles Jack the veteran presence there? This is a team that hasn't accomplished anything. Like everybody that made the AFC Championship game is gone. The regime, the players, Jalen Ramsey's not there. It'd be tougher for Urban Meyer to walk into a locker room that features Jalen Ramsey. Nope, not there. Who's the guy? Where's he going to get pushback? This is actually the perfect situation for Urban Meyer to build his culture because you don't have any old guard there with an ego, a deserved ego pushing back at it.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
I've got a few of them here from baseball. Adam Wainwright last night threw 88 pitches in a shutout. He is the oldest pitcher ever. I shouldn't say ever, since pitches were counted.
I thought you were just saying Adam Wainwright is the oldest pitcher ever, and that's your stat of the day.
To throw a shutout on 88 pitches or fewer. But the evolution of the game is funny, right? Because last night, Corbin Burns strikes out 10 straight guys. 10 straight guys, he strikes out. Wainwright was a horse, big-armed horse, but he threw 92, and now he's slop ball guy at the very end of his career, and he's throwing a shutout on 88 pitches, and we've lived long enough for Adam Wainwright to be, crafty veteran, throwing stuff up there with shoe polish and getting a shutout on 88 pitches. I also saw another stat from Baseball Talk on Twitter saying that you could steal 60 bases for the next 22 years and you'd still be behind Ricky Henderson.
I've got a shocking set of the day, too. Here's my set of the day. Madison Bumgarner is just 32 years old.
That's shocking.
That's not true.
It is. It's shocking. That can't be true. That simply can't be true.
And he just turned 32.
Oh, my God.
This month.
Wow.
Billy, when you see the Miguel Cabrera watch on ESPN on 500 homers, does it make you feel anything as a Marlins fan, as, the worst trade since Babe Ruth?
Makes me feel sad because we're also on 3,000 hit watch. And as you know, I'm owed a 3,000th hit, so I'm kind of upset about that as well. For those of you who don't know and are just joining the program, Ichiro Suzuki, Miami Marlin for a couple of years, was going to get his 3,000th hit. I feel like this is a story people are sick of here, but I'm trying to catch up the audience, Dan. And I bought this package that I could watch Ichiro Suzuki get his 3,000th hit. I went every day for what felt like 6 years to watch Ichiro get his 3,000th hit because he just wouldn't get that one damn hit that he needed. And then sure enough, they hit the road on like a 10-game road trip. And I said, you know what? He's obviously going to do this on the road. And then they got to the last day, Coors Field. And this Donnie T-ball decided this is a good day to start Ichiro Suzuki a day before coming back home while everybody's been watching and waiting for Ichiro to hit his 3,000th hit. I have a 3,000th hit tracker bobblehead I can show you, Dan, that I showed Mike Schur. I still have it. Sure enough, triple off the wall, inches over the right fielder's glove that I was rooting to catch the ball in the air so that I could see him get his 3,000th hit. It was the worst mismanagement I've ever seen of a milestone for a fan base in history. I'm not going to get over it. So anyways,
Wait,
Miguel
just
Cabrera close
stop
to that
there.
too.
Add please to the poll questions. Should Don Mattingly have been managing the game just to please Billy Gill?
Yes, he should have, Dan Le Batard, because I'll tell you what, they weren't going anywhere that season, okay? And they built this whole campaign about Ichiro and his 3,000th hit. And to be honest with you, that's the reason why it is that they even brought him to this team, to get these milestones as a Marlin. And they were one day away from doing it. And you know what? They robbed me of that moment, and they owe me a hit. And now Miguel Cabrera, who was a Marlin, is going to get 500 home runs, and he's going to get 3,000 hits as 1,000,000 years old. And don't get me started. And I've had it with baseball. I'm very happy with what's going on with Lewis Brinson, but baseball and this whole thing with Field of Dreams now, I'm over it. Kevin Costner, for love of the game, ridiculous movie. He's going to retire. He throws a no-hitter at 800 years old, like Madison Bumgarner and the other one.
Slow
Costner
down.
stinks.
Oh,
Whoa, wow, whoa.
And where's the
This is
the?
what-
Why isn't it
what?
for the love of the game? Why is it just for love of game? I feel like that's not right grammatically,
Where do
but
we
I'm not
draw
a grammar
line?
expert. What are we
Billy-
talking about?
Billy, you're made of barbed wire this morning, and what are you railing? You got Kevin Costner over here. You guys
Overrated.
are all right. He's overrated. Kevin Costner's overrated. Field of Dreams is overrated, even though you haven't seen it.
I've seen it, Dan. I saw it as a kid. And I'm going to be honest with you. I felt like there was some pushback the first time we talked about this. So I started looking it up. An hour, 47 minutes. Because when I watched it, it felt like it was 2 hours and 45 minutes. I said, this movie is way too long. An hour and 47 minutes, which is like slightly above my attention span of 90 minutes. So I'm like, okay, I can maybe try this out. And then I saw 1989. I said, no way, Jose. No way, Jose. 1989, I'm out. I don't think I'm going to watch Field of Dreams.
Oh, wow.
It's just too much. Yeah, 1989. Who's the other one, by the way, that I confused Kevin Costner with? The rookie? What's that guy's name? Dennis Quaid?
Yes.
Two of them. Listen, buddies, you're not baseball players, okay? Enough with the baseball movies. Stick to acting.
He did 3 baseball movies, though.
Yeah, too many.
Oh, boy.
Billy is maintaining that Kevin Costner, because Kevin Costner.
Wait, were you arguing that 3 baseball movies is not a lot? Because I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Imagine if he was a boat captain 3 times. You'd be like, what is with this guy in boats?
He loves
Exactly.
baseball, and he fancies himself a great baseball player. And in the movies, to be fair to him, because I think is it indeed for the love of game? I thought it was for the love of the game, but one of the worst.
I believe it's for love of the game.
One of the worst acting performances I've ever seen from an actor trying to be an athlete was John C. Reilly going after a foul ball pop-up in that movie. It just running after it. He had no idea what he was doing. And there are any number of scenes in the movies that you could point to somebody being a poor athlete. And that's the one that, what is that sound I just heard? What was that sound? Where was that coming from?
Oh, you know what it is, Levitard. I'm back, baby. And honestly, I am pissed off. How can Cinephile not get any love? Are you kidding? I made this venture. I made this drastic decision to join you, the Levitard and friends, but we are not friends. You're a Benedict Arnold to me. There's zero promotion of Cinephile on your social. You know what? I'm back. I'm back crashing the party. I'm back to promote Cinephile. New episode today. Me and my man, Chris Cody, who is always my guy. Screw you, Levitard. Screw you.
Wow. I don't understand where he came from. How did he get here again through this? We were talking about That's how,
That's
is that how it's been happening
Screw
around
you, Le Batard. Don't fire me.
You've already been fired.
I thought that we were talking about Field of Dreams. I didn't think you were coming on here to promote Cinephile. I thought that the bit was you would break in and you would talk Field of Dreams. I thought that's why we were talking Field of Dreams with Billy, but instead you tried to go rogue. You tried to go rogue and said, screw Le Batard. I'm here to promote Cinephile.
Listen, Dan, old habits die hard, okay? I just don't gotta tell you. I have to snap back into character sometimes, okay? You have not been promoting the podcast. I'll get to Field of Dreams in a second. We've got plenty of time. Nobody wants to listen to any more of your bloviating. So I'm going to just take the stage right now because it has been long overdue, my friend. So listen, the whole point of me being here is to get some pump for Cinephile. Why else would I be here, okay? What has Stugotz taught any of us? It's all about promotion. I don't care about you. I don't care about the show. I'm trying to get the Cinephile numbers up. Let's go. Download today on Le Batard and Friends. I mean, by the way, what a joke Cinephobe is. We're blowing Cinephobe out of the water. Ask Chris Cody. No, listen, I've been nothing but supportive of Amin Al-Hassan. I go on Ben Lyons, who's filling in for Rich Eisen, and I hear Amin's calling us out. I'm like, are you kidding? Ask Cody what the numbers are. Look, proof's in the pudding. If you want to throw stones, check the numbers. We're killing you. I can ascertain that Cinephile is blowing Cinephobe out of the water.
Oh, Jesus. Now we've got feuds between the movie podcast. You're joining us because you're in a cornfield in Iowa, and we were talking Field of Dreams, and you happen to be there today, and Billy is saying that the movie is overrated, and I was asking, because I've only seen portions of it, if it depends on your relationship with your father, how you feel about that movie.
You've only seen portions of it. Hang on, help clarify. It's on AMC. You watch 12 minutes, I got to go make a sandwich. I can't take any more of this maudlin behavior.
It bored me. I've got to be honest.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Finally.
You terrible, terrible, hard-hearted, cynical South Beach people. It is a wonderful film, okay? Here in the heartland, men and women, that's right, men and women are crying. They're getting emotional. They have driven from miles and hundreds of miles away to make this pilgrimage, and there's tears running down their cheeks as they're throwing a baseball back and forth in front of a cornfield, okay? Even the most hard-hearted among you would get moved by this scene. And I watched the film again, Billy and Dan, just to make sure. It's okay. Maybe the sentimentalist in me, the baseball lover in me is overrating this film. You know, it's supposed to be this generation's It's a Wonderful Life. That director, Frank Capra, was derisively referred to as Capricorn. So I said, maybe this is equally a corny film. Is it corny? Of course it is. Baseball's got the stage to itself. Like the Olympics are over, NBA's over, NFL training camps, whatever. Like, you know, baseball is really going to have the stage. Even if you're a casual sports fan, even if you're a Field of Dreams hater like Billy, you're going to say, let me just check out the scene and what it looks like. And I think Fox, they do always do a tremendous job of this in terms of the camera work, in terms of the drones. They've got their whole crew, Joe Buck, John Smoltz, the entire crew here. What I think is interesting is going to be there's only 8,000 seats. So, I mean, the tickets are outrageous. I believe it's $400 face value. And some of these tickets are going for $4,000. So imagine you got your family of four. Let's plunk down 16 grand to watch Andrew Heaney pitch for the New York Yankees, who at last check is a 7.20 ERA. But hey, I think it should be an unbelievable experience. It's often a laugh to say a once in a lifetime, but I think in this case, it is probably true. And it's going to be a corny night, as my friend Chris Cody would say.
Cinephile is afflicted a bit, I would say, by Adnan being too nice. This is not something that afflicts Cinephobe. When you said A-Rod, great guy, obviously, is there anyone that you would not say that about? I'm just curious. If someone had been in your presence, would you just simply say they're a great guy, other than Amin Al-Hassan, evidently, because you are somebody who's fundamentally decent, and when talking publicly about people, you tend to be fundamentally decent.
I appreciate that. And you're right. Perhaps at times somebody isn't that great a guy, but I'll still give them that label. I will still give them that moniker. The only person I can think of who I would really speak derogatory about and be genuine in my disdain would be David Sampson. Like, I think of anybody I think is a genuinely great guy. I don't think David Sampson's a genuinely great guy. I don't care for him. I don't care for what he did as a baseball executive. I don't like his movie taste. I don't like the fact he crashed Cinephile. Like everybody else, great guy. Sampson, no, I'm going to go pass on great guy.
Cinephile, check it out.
Val Kilmer's documentary. We're going to get a little bit of Val Kilmer's documentary there, because that seems to be something that would be a little bit sad.
Absolutely, Dan. For those who are not aware, like this has been quite a journey for Val Kilmer. The documentary is called Val. It's available on Amazon Prime. This is a guy who was ticketed for stardom. He was, drafted to Juilliard, which is, of course, an acclaimed acting school. He was thought to be a great rising star. He was in films like The Doors, where he eerily channels Jim Morrison, obviously worked with Oliver Stone. I wish they talked a lot more about Heat, which is one of my favorite movies. There's maybe 45 seconds about Heat in the entire documentary. But important to your point about the tragedy, for those who've been wondering what happened to Val Kilmer, he battled throat cancer. And now in the film, he's got a trach which completely inhibits his ability to speak. So when he speaks, I won't imitate it because I don't want to be denigrating at all. But like it literally comes across as mechanical. And without the use of subtitles, you can't understand what Val Kilmer's saying. I mean, unless I think you're his son or his daughter, you're used to that voice. Anybody who's had throat cancer knows what I'm talking about. That trach is really tough. So it's a breathing tube. He's got to press this. It comes out like a little computer almost, and you have to decipher what he's saying. But it's honestly refreshing because he says, I actually feel better than I sound. Like, I know it looks like I'm dying, but I feel better. I recuperated. It was just the impact, the chemo and the radiation that has unfortunately robbed this great actor of his voice. But he goes to all these autograph signings, memorabilia shows, and he's honest. He's very candid, Dan. He says, a part of me says, this is sad. What kind of an actor is to live in the past 20 years ago? But then I see these people, and they love Batman, and they love Doc Holliday in Tombstone, which was one of his most iconic performances. So he goes, the love that I feel makes me feel better. It's a film that is a rarity because it's both life-affirming and genuinely sad, because you do wish Val Kilmer could give us more of those great performances.
Why should people listening to Cinephile listen to Cinephile this week? And Chris, why? You mentioned to me in my ear, and I have to ask the question, why are you sweating so much?
Yeah, so I just got back from the gym, and Dubuque, Iowa. Here we're looking at 90 degrees. It's awfully humid. I know there's a heat wave everywhere. By the way, I just saw on the news. I'm sure South Florida is obviously. So that's it's not really sweat. I got out of the shower. It's more.
I imagine Adnan gets some guttural noises going in the gym.
Not shy about throwing a little weight around, much like Ryan Russillo. And Dan asked for a tease on this week's Cinephile, the great Dan Stanzik, who is the OG when it comes to Cinephile. Cody's great, but Stanzik is the OG. He comes back for a special appearance, and he breaks down Ryan Russillo, Colin Cowherd, Mike Greenberg, Linda Cohn, 4 of Dan's favorites, in 3 words. Brevity is a real strength here on the podcast. So Dan Stanzik breaking down some of your favorite ESPN personalities, past and present, in just 3 words. Go ahead, Billy.
Chris, are you picturing, before we get to Billy, are you picturing him on the bench press? Because I don't imagine that this particular hotel has a big, spacious gym, but you're picturing Adnan on the bench press, and he's throwing like a, ah!
I've got him in one of those machines because I do have him in a hotel. It's not a normal gym, but he's got the pin really low down. It's a heavy weight, and he's just pulling the thing towards him. He's like,
What are your workout sounds? Give us one of your workout sounds with
baby.
That's about it.
Baby.
That sounds like how someone would masturbate a basset hound. Yes, Billy.
Have you run into anyone at the gym? I feel like in Iowa, and no offense to the people of Iowa, I feel like you're probably at the hotel, right?
Nailed it, Billy. So we're at the Hotel Julian in Dubuque, Iowa, which with my Canadian accent, Dubuque. I thought it was like Tuke, as Canadians say, so Dubuque. But they're like, no, it's Dubuque. I'm like, I understand Dubuque, which, of course, is from a Quebecois guy from 1786 who founded this charming city. 20,000, 30,000. This is the one great hotel. I said, is this the only hotel? They go, this is the best hotel in town. I said, give me some sort of reason behind that. They go, well, Al Capone stayed here. Legend has it, the 4th floor, Al Capone would rent the entire thing out because from that vantage point, you could see the FBI from 3 different states. For those who are unfamiliar with geography, Iowa's about 3 hours away from Chicago. So when the feds were coming down on tax evasion charges, Al Capone was in this hotel working on a stogie, much like Dan in that unbelievable parody video of Colin Cowherd, a self-satisfied look in his face. I'm sure Al Capone had that same look when the feds were coming and he realized he had to make a quick getaway.
How was their gym? How was the Iowa? It's all right.
Again, to Billy's point, Fox Sports is staying here. As soon as I walked in Big Sun, I go, I finally get to meet Joe Buck. I cannot wait to meet Joe. I'll probably see him in the gym. So I'm like, I'm going there day and night. So I want to see Joe, say hello, maybe get on his podcast. 2 treadmills, 2 ellipticals. We've got weights from 10 to 50 pounds. We've got a couple of mats. And there is an adjacent swimming pool, which I was like, okay, indoor pool, maybe. But I've actually seen no one in the gym. Dan knows this. When you're on the road, there's always some sweaty technical director just trying to prove how big he is. I'm like, all right, there's about 20 guys who are all sweaty, stopping messes, alpha males. No, nobody going to the gym here in Dubuque. I've had the place to myself.
See you later, Adnan. If there's anything else we need to know from not Cinephile, not from Cinephile, I don't know how you got him on the show today, but from tonight's big game, tonight, anything else we need to know that's fun or interesting from the Field of Dreams nostalgia game?
Listen, I just think it's going to be a special event. The Yankees and the White Sox. This is two really good teams. I mean, listen, Mike Schur is a diehard baseball fan. The White Sox might be the best team in the American League. The Yankees somehow are cobbling together a roster, even though they've been decimated by injuries and players being put in the COVID IL. So I actually do think, Dan, it's a legitimately great baseball game. As you know, I don't know how much the players embrace this. Guys like me are nerding out. The players like, man, we just knocked out 3 games against the Royals. Now we got to go to some cornfield. Then we got to go to Chicago. Then go home to Boston. We're fighting for our playoff lives here. But I do think it's going to be a genuinely great baseball game. And it's a real made-for-TV event. So I think it's going to be off the special tonight.
Feels like it's going to be a corny night.
Again, you guys are both making that joke. They're
Chris.
both terrible jokes. It's a terrible joke that Adnan already made and gave credit.
Cinephile.
We got to talking during the break here off of Adnan Virk and his time in a sad Iowa hotel gym about famous people we've seen at the gym. So we're going to unveil some of those in a second. But before we do that, I also want to talk about the documentary, or the first part of the Jermaine O'Neal documentary that I ended up seeing last night, because there were a couple of things that were good in there. I never failed to laugh when that turtle in a Pistons jersey decides on the court, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and square up with Ron Artest. I think that's a good idea. Like, his arm twitched a little bit and Ron Artest got immediately in fighting pose. And I'm like screaming at Turtle in the Pistons jersey. Like, what are you doing on the court? What were you thinking? Why are you out there trying to sucker punch Ron Artest? But something happened on, I want to call it First Take, but it's not First Take. It's a copycat ripoff of First Take that is one of the many disappointing things about Fox, not the least of which is that they decided to get into the ESPN game by just copycatting ESPN. And the most successful thing they have is a First Take ripoff between Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless.
Thanks, Adnan Virk, for joining us earlier.
Adnan Virk of Cinephile. And the thing...
You also hired Kate Fagan and Tom Haberstroh and Amin El Hassan. And what do you pay on property taxes on that glass house there, Dan? Oh,
I hired some former ESPN people.
you hired John Skipper
to do things that are not ESPN-y. And one of the things that they did with their First Take ripoff is they just put a woman who is there to be silent between the two people. Like, I know that that is not officially the role, but that is basically what ends up being the role. You're between two shouters. And yesterday, Jenny Taft was fed up with it. As Skip Bayless was talking about Mike McCarthy and talking about, he was weight shaming Mike McCarthy, saying that Mike McCarthy, he wouldn't want to be coached by a fat guy. And all of a sudden, it was odd. It's so odd to see on those shows. It is so odd to see when the person in the middle has a strong opinion and objects to something being said as she's surrounded by strong opinion. And so there was a lot of Jenny Taft goes off when all she did was object to, like, what are you talking about, Skip? Why are you diminishing a coach just because he's not in the same shape you are in?
I feel like it wouldn't have made any news had Skip just been okay with her objecting, because they would have moved on to the next topic. Like, she was getting ready to set up Chris Broussard, which she said like 6 times. And Skip was just so mad that she disagreed with him for whatever reason. Because I think this isn't like the only time this has ever happened, but he took umbrage to her not liking him fat shaming Mike McCarthy, basically.
But it wasn't even that strong what she did. She just pointed out that what he had done didn't seem fair. And I feel like Skip Bayless wants to mutter, hey, I'm doing my thing here. Don't disagree with me. Just support my thing. I'm doing the things that make me go viral. Let me just fat shame Mike McCarthy here without objection from a teammate.
And I feel like Skip Bayless was just trying to be like, oh, look at me. I'm Skip Bayless. I'm 80 years old, but I have a 12-pack because I work out so much. Like, it was just him trying to be like, I'm so in shape. I can call anyone fat because everyone's fatter than me. I'm Skip Bayless. And she was like, you know what, Skip, like, relax for a second. And then the person I feel the most bad for is her college coach, who caught a stray in all of this, because I would hate to turn on Fox Sports and all of a sudden, like, my former player is like telling me I didn't have a perfect physique.
She probably told her, the coach probably told whatever team they're coaching now, hey, check out my former player's hosting today. And then she gets shamed.
Yeah. He or she gets shamed, but I imagine
it was a she. I'm
I
fairly
like to
positive.
imagine that it was like someone with a medium build that was learning in that moment that they were fat. Like someone with like a Sean Payton pre-divorce build that was like eating a breakfast muffin, like just trying to support Jenny Taft.
For those who
finds out they're fat and then just throws it away.
If you didn't see the clip, Jenny Taft mentions by way of defense of the ability of fat people to coach. She says, my college coach, and she doesn't say my college coach was fat, but she sort of
didn't have the perfect physique, which is like not an insult. Like that's fine.
And they were a great coach.
But like, yeah, if you're that coach, like you don't love to hear that on TV.
I had Mike's exact reaction to that, which is some poor coach is just biting into. I didn't have it being a muffin, though. I had it being on a fork, and it's a sausage. And she's about to eat a big piece of sausage. And then she's looking at the television, watching one of her star pupils be on television at, the height of sports journalism. I'm sort of using that in quotes. And how mortified. Does a diet start the next day? Put it on the poll, Guillermo.
It always starts the next day. It always starts the next day.
It always starts Monday or the first of a month.
This Monday.
How did you guys picture this? Because this is the person. There's no real harm here to anyone other than the college coach who did nothing other than coach Jenny well.
Right.
And eat too much, evidently.
I mean, I feel like that was probably not, it didn't come out the way that Jenny intended it to. But I also felt like the way that she was saying, I'm allowed to have an opinion, that felt like it had been bottled up for a while. The way that she just...
I'm allowed to have an opinion, Skip.
Yeah.
Comma Skip.
Right.
Like, I've been holding this one in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's been meaning to let that one out for a while.
But I think that is something that should just exist. I don't think they should just keep hiring women and putting between them two arguing men. I think they should just put that there. I'm allowed to have an opinion, Skip, in some sort of female form as a symbol, because that's what the job is. No, you're not. That job is no, you're not. Like that you can count on one hand the number of times that a woman who sits between them has an opinion that goes viral like that. And it's not having an opinion because it's worthy of being viral. It's just the having of an opinion. That role is not a role. You are there to be a traffic cop. You are there. Am I wrong about this? I think that's why Carrie Champion, that must be one of the worst jobs anywhere in sports television.
I don't know how you wake up at probably 5 a.m., go to hair and makeup, like go meet with your producers and then get on TV and do that first thing in the morning, 5 days a week. Like that sounds so physically and mentally exhausting to me. I do not know how that job must be the hardest job on TV right now.
The jobs pay, but they don't pay nearly as much as the people next to you. And plenty of people will take a nice paying job to sit somewhere on television for a few hours. But that job specifically will eat your soul. I feel bad for everyone who has to sit between the argument shouters, and it's some sort of sacrilege when you say something like, I'm allowed to have an opinion, Skip.
But the reason why it's noteworthy is because the clip kind of breaks the fourth wall, right? Because the show is designed debate. That felt like a legitimate argument that two people were having that they televised, as opposed to, should Dak Prescott get an extension? Yes or no? I disagree, Skip. No, these are two human beings that are arguing about very real things that they disagree about.
It's one of the things I hate about television. Like there's always a veneer on all of that crap. I really dislike the contrived sports argument stuff. But one of the reasons to dislike it beyond all the others is women sit there and don't say anything. Like just sit there between the two people and don't say anything. Let the men
challenge Skip more than don't say anything.
Let the men talk is what it feels like to me.
But have it be Chris Broussard next. You have to direct traffic there, but the whole history of that position is something cool to look at, and then you just move the show along. But the stars are Skip and Shannon. I believe that's the name of the show. Skip and Shannon, undisputed.
It's a job that pays a lot less, and it's a contrivance that is sort of symbolic of what it is that women in this industry have to face. Go ahead and find all the ones that are allowed to be Shannon or Skip, and find all the ones that give an opinion like that in these places where you just have strictly argument television, and the reaction of the host who's used to being in power is that she has to say out loud, I'm allowed to have an opinion, Skip, as if we're in an abusive household from the 1940s.
It's literally like not even that controversial of an opinion. Like, okay, fat people can be good coaches. Like, is that really, do we have to argue about that? Like, of course, fat people can be anything they want to be. They can be good at anything. Yeah. Like, what kind of opinion is this that he needs to defend further? Who cares what someone looks like?
I just pictured that Jenny Taft coach listening to you on the podcast and taking a muffin out of the garbage can and taking a big old bite. Yes, I can. Does that come with age? I'm a little worried about that because in a post-game show, I'm noticing my body changing a little bit. And that's going to happen to me at one point, right? Where the belt just, it's not to hold my pants up. It's just to draw a line between two pockets of fat.
It's crazy that those come out of nowhere because you never see somebody and you're like, oh, that they've got to have one. It's just they either have one or they don't.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Does the Fupa come out of nowhere? Because I don't feel like it comes out of nowhere. I believe it's a very steady climb. Are you saying that it goes from a hardened belly? Because Don Nelson didn't have a Fupa. He had a big gin belly.
Yeah. Yeah.
A Fupa is when it drops down and what used to be the hardened belly, which is what I imagine Parcells was in his prime, has now drooped. It is now a drooping epicenter of what used to be more of a keg is now softer.
I picture the strength of Don Nelson's belly, his gin belly, to be stronger than tungsten. That if I went to try to punch it, it would hurt my hand. Yeah, it would be like, and I would have to see a doctor.
I don't think of it as hurt your hand necessarily that strong, but I do have it with very little give, like a big boxing punching bag, like a big sandbag.
Yeah, no, very little give. You're right.
But a little give, not very much. You're going to hit some soft because they're not in any way actually fit. You're saying it's a hardened belly that doesn't have not very much soft in it. We've really deconstructed this.
Yeah.
Where did you see Parcells?
No, I was just thinking about coaches that don't have ideal body types that have reached the highest of highs in their
Charlie Weiss is the other one that we think of as a Fupa haver.
Yeah, well, you actually said he looked like he was sewn together backwards.
Well, yes, he looks like the bottom half of his body was sewn on backwards. That is what it does look like. There's no disputing this. This was once the savior of Jessica Smetana's favorite college football team. You can't even dispute it. It does look like it.
Oh, it's undisputed, Dan. It's undisputed.
Oh, no.
Am I allowed to have an opinion here?
You disagree with the idea that Charlie Weiss looks like the lower half of his body was sewn on backwards?
I just don't know how we got to the place where I have to fat shame someone now when we were just like doing the opposite of that in the last segment.
Let's go the opposite of that, and let's talk about what we were talking about during the break, which is people you've seen in the gym who are celebrities who are trying to get fit, who are taking care of themselves, who are not owners of Fupas. Why did this start? Oh, because of Adnan Virk and everything that happened in the Iowa cornfield gym.
Yeah, because there was someone in that Iowa hotel that's like sending off a text in the group chat, maybe a blurry picture. Don't do that, folks. But oh my gosh, you're not gonna believe who I'm here working out with in this Iowa hotel gym. That dude from SportsCenter. What's his name? And then someone will say something racist like Anish Shroff, and then we move on. And no, then there's Googling. No, is that guy? No, I know he's from somewhere.
No, it's Zubin Mehenti.
Yeah. There's that whole thing. And then they'd land on, oh, yeah, this guy from Raw, Adnan Virk. But it's a very unique type of celebrity run-in, like the bathroom run-in or the airplane run-in. It's the type of celebrity run-in that really stays with you, that feels extra special. And I have 5 of my top 5.
You've had
celebrity
5 of these
encounters.
in your life in just the gym? Just the gym.
So this is my top 5 celebrity run-ins in the gym.
Before you get to them, do any of us have any others that can supplement the Mike Ryan list?
I just thought of one. Walter Payton's son.
Jared Payton?
Jared Payton does
Yes.
not qualify, I don't feel.
Well,
He's
you knew
allowed
his
to have-
name.
He's allowed to have an opinion, and he was pretty decent.
We know his name because he played at Miami and he was Walter Payton's son.
You still knew it.
Does dog trainer Cesar Millan count?
Yes.
If I was
Billy.
riding one of those like sitting down bicycles next to him at a gym on Bird Road. It didn't
Wow.
happen, but would it count if it did?
Oh,
It would,
come on.
yes, it would count if it did, but it did not happen, unfortunately. Billy was alarmed. When you said 5 celebrities in the gym, Billy doesn't know that he's met 5 celebrities, period. Never mind in the gym.
I started making a list of celebrities I've run into, and I wrote down where I ran into them, but they weren't at the gym.
Put some respect on the 2004 Orange Bowl MVP's name, okay? He
Thank
can be
you.
Walter Payton's son and also 2004 Orange Bowl MVP.
Before we get to Mike Ryan's top 5 list, let's get to Billy's top 5 list, which is just celebrities he's run into wherever. Number 5 from Billy Gill. Go ahead, Billy.
Lilia Stefan at a high school basketball game.
This is going to be such a Miami list. It is going to be the daughter of Gloria Stefan. The daughter of Gloria Stefan.
No, I think she's her niece, but also she's the co-host of El Gordo y la Flaca, which is the fat man and the skinny woman.
I saw the fat man at dinner recently.
Really?
Walking past a mirror. Number 4.
Maria Antonieta Collins at a Dunkin' Donuts in Westchester.
Tony Collins.
No, her mom.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah.
Her mom. Number 3.
You made that mistake too. That's a Cassidy thing. Congrats.
Brian McKnight buying a hot dog at the AAA.
It's a great one.
Number 2.
Danica Patrick and Aaron Rodgers at the Daytona 500.
Okay, so you weren't really near them. You just sort of saw them walking around, or did you
Like 20 feet away from them. I didn't say anything.
And number 1.
Jesse James Decker and Eric Decker. I held a door open for them once.
Did they say thank you?
I think so. We
They're
were
on,
headed in opposite directions.
they're on that yacht with Alex Rodriguez. And I think, when I think of the Deckers, does anyone else think of that? I think of sensual fun, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
They have fun vacations. You could just tell from the IGs, Dan. Would love to be on one of those, but I don't know if I'm ready for that.
It's a little fast, yes. Mike, are you ready? Or Chris or Roy? Does anyone else have any celebrity gym encounters? Fancy lad. I've got a list that Mike's going to like. Mike's going to like my list of celebrity gym encounters. Let's go to Mike. Number 5, Mike, on your list of celebrity gym encounters.
Tully Blanchard. Curls.
Number 4.
President of the Indiana Pacers, Kevin Pritchard. Treadmill. That's not a good one if you have to give the title. I didn't say one half of the brain
It's like
busters.
Brian Arakpo in those Geico commercials. Hey, look, there's Washington defensive end, Brian Arakpo.
Isn't it
One half of the brain busters, Tully Blanchard.
Isn't it that's Pro Bowler?
Yeah, Pro Bowler.
Washington Pro Bowler Brian Arakpo, although I don't think he made a Pro Bowl. I think they lied in the ad.
I think they might have just said pro.
Number 3.
Gold dust. Bench press.
Number 2.
PJ Carlissimo. Elliptical.
He lives in that Bristol Doubletree, man.
Oh, man.
He loves I saw him there, and I've only been there once.
Brian Arakpo, 4-time Pro Bowler.
Okay. My bad. Thank you, Chris.
But at the time,
Number 1.
Double A. Arn Anderson. Treadmill.
Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
Was he jogging
He's
or
the other
walking?
half of the. You don't know who Arn Anderson is? He's the other half of the Brain Busters with Tully Blanchard.
That is unbelievable.
I had a Brain Busters reunion at some hotel in Jacksonville.
Roy, who are you mad at there? You're mad at Tony? You're mad at Chris?
I'm mad at both of them. Not knowing who Arn Anderson is? Are you
How
serious?
do you not know who?
I have
Arn
no
Anderson-
idea.
I mean, he
who that
was
is.
old in the
Double A.
90s. He was old in the 90s
Four
when we watched
Horsemen?
though.
If you
The
can't-
enforcer.
Thank you, Billy. He's a guy that would hold up his four like he had gnarled hands and fingers. Like that's like he couldn't just hold up like four like this. It was just like four. He was the enforcer behind Ric Flair's Flash. The Nature Boy wouldn't go into a bar without his backup, the enforcer Arn Anderson.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please, at Batard Show. Do you know who Arn Anderson is? Arn Anderson as an enforcer is funny because of how old he looks and because I believe that he's going to be someone who has a fupa later in life like Parcells.
He's 62 years old now. I thought he
He's
was
been,
that
no,
age.
he's been
oh
that.
my
No, he's
God.
been that my entire life.
Secret to aging.
Arn Anderson has been 62 since he was doing tag team wrestling with his brother 40 years ago. And he looked old. He just looked, it's the hair. It's not just the body. It's also the hair.
Hey, Dan, I've got a top 5 of famous people I've seen too.
Okay. Hi, Tony. I don't know why you introduced yourself to me that way.
It's been a long time. I sit behind here. You can't really see me. I only see you in the Zoom, so I just wanted to say hi.
All right, let's go to number 5 on Tony's list of celebrity encounters at the gym.
Well, it's not at the gym. It's just everywhere, kind of like Billy. But
Okay, I don't want any of those lists.
no, but hold on.
There's
This is a
one at
good
the gym.
list. This is a good list.
Okay.
I'm telling you. James Jones from the NFL at LAX.
The list is not good
This
so
is
far.
so bad.
Number 4.
Ryan Russillo at the Santa Monica Pier.
The list is still not
I
any
imagine he's always there.
good. Number 3.
Jason Witten at the Connecticut airport
Put it on the poll. Put it on, do you,
with hair.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Do you imagine that Ryan Russillo is always at the Santa Monica Pier? Number 2.
I drove Adam Schefter home one time. It's a good
I
one,
can play
right?
that game.
What's his house like?
Well, to the DoubleTree. It wasn't really home, but I drove him home.
Oh, you want to play like celebrity car rides that we've shared? All right,
Bill
hang on.
Simmons.
All right, now let's go.
Number 1, Tony.
Stephen A. Smith in a urinal right next to me in Bristol. I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
And
Wow.
We were the only two there. He's tall. He's tall. Tall guy. I mean, good suit.
No.
Washed his hands.
Oh, that's nice of him.
You know? Smelled great.
Chris,
Okay.
your list of driving people home has nothing on it other than Bill Simmons, or does it have anything else on it?
well, I guess my dad's technically a celebrity. Yeah, it just has Bill Simmons.
Your dad is not someone who counts here.
For the show, I once drove home Mike Buck of Nature Bee.
That's a different game. Saddest person you've ever had to drive home.
Was he wearing the light blue jacket?
Yes. He was absolutely wearing the light blue blazer.
The light blue blazer from the 1960s. Well, I'm going to eliminate. I've only got 4 celebrities outside of sports, right? Like people like Herb Street and Fowler and Barkley. I'm not going to count those. So I'm going to do just Lenny Kravitz at a boutique gym here in Miami. That's a good one.
That's a really good one. Oh, you got the Equinox pool. This is going to be tough.
Adriana Lima, the supermodel. This is where the list is going to be something that Mike likes. Danny Glover.
Oh, no, Riggs.
Danny Glover was extraordinarily mean to me in a San Francisco gym. I asked him, he was not watching the television in any way. I kept an eye to make sure that he wasn't, if I could change the channel. He told me no, and I scurried back to where it is I was.
Love that. No, Riggs. When you were reaching for the TV.
You just did it to talk to him, though, right? You
No,
didn't
I
actually
did
wanna
not.
change
No,
the
I
TV.
wanted to change the channel.
Pro
And
move.
it's where I realized he was Danny Glover. It happened just like this. Oh, that's Danny Glover, all in my head. Wow, he was mean to me. Okay, and then I just sort of slunk away.
That's gonna stay with you forever. That's why you always got to be nice to people. They're gonna carry that against you. Riggs.
And then number 1 on a treadmill right next to him on a treadmill in Las Vegas, Nicolas Cage.
How have you not told me this? How is this the first time I'm disappointed? I've known you for 20 years.
Were there a
We've
bunch
talked
of
about
were there a bunch of empty ones and you just chose the one right next to him?
They were all empty. Yes, they were all empty. And I just he was a very vigorous runner. He was very fit. There were no, skulls around him.
Not the bees.
Are you sure it was Nicolas Cage?
I mean, it could have been, if I'm in Vegas, it could have been a Nicolas Cage impersonator, I suppose. But this one looked remarkably like Nicolas Cage. And then there was my ill-fated, I forgot about the Matt Damon one as well.
Yeah. You know you didn't.
I know I did. I did. It's not on my list. It's not on my list.
Do you think it wasn't actually Nicolas Cage that you were just running next to?
No, it was Nicolas Cage. It was
David Guest.
It was absolutely Nicolas Cage, but I don't have a good story for you. The one I remember is Danny Glover, because Danny Glover was mean to me. There's no good story here. The story begins and ends with I was on a treadmill next to Nicolas Cage. There's no interaction. There's nothing.
I just told people to Google David Guest. It's a good joke. To carry that Danny Glover memory with you now. A little bit of trauma every time I do my fake Danny Glover. Just, man, that guy was a dick to me that one time.
Mike, this is how I feel every Sunday night of football season for the last 3 years.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, Sunday night.
I can't.
Oh, yeah.
It's very triggering to
you
me.
got cyberbullied.
I just
She did not get cyberbullied. She was a cyberbully who was put in her place.
Billy, that is not at all true.
That is what was true. You made fun of Carrie Underwood, thinking, "Oh my God, she's
I
not
didn't
going to
make fun of
respond to
her.
my
That's the whole
snarky
point,
comment."
Billy.
And sure enough, she saw it. And then her
my God.
legion of fans came after you for being snarky.
You are
You got
spreading
what you had
false,
coming.
Billy, you are spreading false information. That
I
is a
feel
false
as bad for you
narrative.
as I do for Chrissy Teigen.
I'm
just
not
gonna say that
asking
right
for
now.
anyone to feel bad for me. Holy shit. Also, like, what the fuck? Mark it.
Cyberbullies getting put in their place.
Okay, Billy. Well, if you want to believe Carrie Underwood's narrative, sorry, C. Underwood, I'm not saying her first name because her fans will search for it and follow me and attack me again. If you want to believe her narrative versus mine, that's your prerogative. But I'm telling you, that narrative is false.
One of the things that Billy just did, if you want to elaborate any more, please continue, Jessica. A woman is allowed to have an opinion around here. Skip. But I want to, the side swipe that Billy just took at Chrissy Teigen, because I have felt bad for her as this has escalated. And I know we're not supposed to feel bad for rich celebrities. And she seems to be addicted to social media, and social media can be cruel. And social media is a terrible place to expect people to be nice. It's acidic and it's toxic, but she also seems to be a little addicted to it, can't stay away from it. And she gets sad every time she enters the fray.
But she was an asshole to a bunch of people, and then she got exposed for being an asshole. That's what happened. People weren't just making fun of her. She was a jerk to a ton of people and then got exposed for being a jerk. She's not a victim. She's a victim of what she was doing to people.
And that is not the same as what I did. All I said was that one version of Sunday night, waiting all day for Sunday night, was better than another. And that's not the same as Chrissy Teigen telling someone online to go kill themselves, apparently. Not the same thing.
The end of the tweet, Jessica Smetana says, "I love that NBC has been reading everyone's Collinsworth slide tweets because it means they're also reading all the tweets about how much we hate the new Carrie Underwood song."
Everyone hated it.
Hate was being okay, but if you're saying you hate it, and there are people who don't.
But that's not the same as telling someone to go kill
That's
themselves.
true.
Well,
That's true. That's true.
Agreed.
That comparison was.
It's
Agreed.
a corporate
Tomato,
like
tomato.
jingle that she does every year. It's not even on one of her albums. It's not like her passion project. I guess maybe it is, according to what she replied to me. But all I was saying was that we hate one song, and this was everyone. You hate it too. We all hate it, right? We all agree.
I'll back you up here.
We all agree.
I'll back you up
Toe
here.
tapper.
She's had better ones. And honestly, they should have kept Pink. Or Pink!
Ink, yes.
Billy, I'd like to clarify, because you are right. She made her own bed here when it comes to social media, because she was a jerk to people. The part that makes me feel bad is that she's addicted to something that's cruel. Like, I'm not saying that she doesn't merit the cruelty. I'm saying I'm made sad by the fact that she can't stay away from it, and she keeps going back there expecting some sort of forgiveness because she's apologized, and it's not gonna get any nicer. If she's addicted to something that's cruel, that's something that is going to be a bit of a mental health struggle.
Yeah. I mean, I also don't believe that her apologies were very sincere. And no one believed when she said she was going to go away forever. Everyone knew she was coming back. She's already done the whole thing with like the fake TMZ photo shoots and like, oh, we caught her walking out of the gym and she's just so sad about how mean people have been to her on Twitter lately. Like, oh, really? How did you know she was going to be there? That's weird. The tour has already started, right? Like, we can all agree on that. Do we agree on that? Am I the only one? No one cares about this story.
One of the stories that we care about around here, and I don't know if we're entitled to care about it. Should we care about it?
I care about it because what do you guys think about the social responsibility that celebrities have when retweeting somebody with a quote tweet? I was pulled aside by Mina Kimes one time, and she changed my behavior somewhat. Now I still fall into this, but she's like, even though this person's being real shitty to you in this one instance, you have a platform and actual fans that is probably going to make that person's life uncomfortable, regardless of how bad their message to you made you feel in that moment. You're just going to just re-up that, and you're kind of flexing on them like, I can do this to you. You think you can hurt me? No, I'll hurt you more with my fans, and it'll come back at you tenfold. And she actually she changed my behavior in that respect.
Well, that was exactly why I was so rattled by Carrie Underwood quote tweeting me, because she had 8 million followers and I was 23 years old at the time, had like probably 10,000 followers on Twitter. So all of her, I mean, I was like literally a child. All of her followers, and she also said that I was not a woman supporting other women in her tweet, which is like a very it's so she is wrong, Chris, actually. So that was a little bit of like okay, you took it a little far there, Carrie. C word, sorry. And so she sent all of her.
That's even worse.
C-word.
I wanted to apologize and say it was a bad comparison.
No,
You
that's
called
not
her the
what I
C word.
said.
Digging Smetana.
Called her the C word.
No, that's not what I
Wow,
said.
real woman
That's
supporting
not
other
what I
women over
said.
here.
Literally what you said without context.
C asterisk 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 asterisk. All right. C asterisk 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 asterisk.
You're making them all plural. It's just a singular asterisk.
Asterisk 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 asterisk
No,
asterisk.
you're still saying
asterisk.
it wrong.
Could you just say
No.
C asterisks then, if it's going to be plural?
Asterisks.
Chris Whittingham is a
I
fancy
mean, but he's
lad.
I
right.
feel like I need a prescription for C asterisk.
She sicked all of her 8 million followers on me, and then the story was aggregated on like the Today Show, BuzzFeed, and everyone was like, Carrie Underwood C asterisk slaps back to fan for who was mean to her, and it's like, no, that's not really what happened. Like, but okay.
Kind of feels like a Zion situation. Feels like this was good for you ultimately.
I mean,
You probably doubled your Twitter followers.
I did. There were some other things that happened afterwards that were a little uncomfortable, but I don't want to go there right now. That'll be for my memoir. But anyways,
You think you'll have the stature to have a memoir?
you never know. I'm young. Anything could happen. If I get another dust up with Carrie Underwood, yeah, probably.
Mike, do you think
C
you could write
asterisk.
a memoir? Are you in memoir territory?
No, I'm not in memoir territory.
Do you guys think that I should rethink based on what Mina taught Mike Ryan, blowing up big white faces, the singular joke from Twitter that I've been making across
No, keep doing that.
12 years? Well, my excuse because our people do attack those people, my excuse or my rationalization for it is, well, this is the picture you chose to share with everybody. This is the picture you're proud of. I didn't dig up the internet for your photo. This is the one that is on your Twitter account.
You do you. I don't want to moralize. It was just in the wake of new information, someone said something that I found enlightening, and I still fall into the traps. Maybe as recently as yesterday. Like, especially if you get me heated on the Canes or something that I feel passionate about, we'll go to a Twitter war, a twar. Or American Airlines. But that's the only way they pay attention, dude. I try to play clean
That
with
is
American
true.
Airlines.
That is true. The airlines only care about public shame.
Yeah.
Only care about
I've
it.
been like calling them. I'm on hold for. You don't see me on hold for 3 hours. You don't see me DMing and not getting anything back. But what you do see, what apparently they see, is me flexing on them with my blue check.
Public shaming absolutely works better than anything in the customer service industry now. You just throw hashtag Delta Airlines on something and you can, don't tell Stugotz this. Do not, I don't think Stugotz knows it yet because Stugotz will do gratuitous things and he will shame restaurants just to get reservations and stuff. He will do it in a way that is unseemly.
That I have too much shame for that, but that's why Stugotz is Stugotz. Like I'm with Mike. I've had some serious airline troubles the last few months, and like until it reaches that emergency break the glass level, like I have too much shame to tweet at them. But it is the only thing that works because the airline customer service is crappy across the board.
There can't be many people these days picking up a telephone and calling a customer service line at an airline. Is that a thing that people are still doing now, or is this public shaming? Have people now realized, because I've seen this public shaming of a bunch of different corporate entities, but I don't think it's stronger than anywhere than it is specifically with the frustration that takes you to your social media when you've spent 4 hours in an airplane line unable to get anything done. I don't believe there's any place, tell me if I'm wrong, where you will find people actively agitated enough to do the public shaming of the corporation in a way that works. Is it working better anywhere than it is in the airline industry in terms of getting attention?
That's really the only place. That's the only place that you feel is helpless, to set you off that way. Because I never want to be that person. And I try for several hours to not be that person, but they get you riled up to a place that you're so hopeless. Like they did to me. I was going to be stranded without my family in San Diego because they canceled one of my flights that I didn't ask them to. And I had 12 hours to fix this, and half of those 12 hours I'm on the phone not getting anywhere. You turn desperate.
This sounds like an excellent way that we can get around some war crime laws by just torturing people this way, actually torturing them by making them wander around an airport for 4 days angry because they're not able to get their flight.
You're saying this is the exclusive domain of the airline industry. I present the cable industry.
Yeah, it used to be maybe, but a lot of people are disconnecting. They're cutting their cords.
People still have a go at Xfinity whenever they can, though.
Yep.
You're talking about airlines. You're talking about cable. UPS, Dan. They have been a nightmare to deal with for the past month. I have gone back and forth with their customer service agents about all of the damaged boxes that they delivered. I shipped my whole life to Florida, and they destroyed like half of my stuff. And it's getting to the point where I might have to send a tweet soon.
Are UPS and FedEx getting buried and scared of everything going on with Amazon? Like, do they have a problem on their hands as a transporter of goods?
It's possible. It's also possible that maybe they're cutting costs, and maybe instead of having people with trucks deliver things, they're just dropping boxes out of helicopters, because that is what it seems like.
It always stuns me that a box is labeled fragile and they don't give a shit. It's almost as if, like, it's, fellas, we found one, and then they just play a game of soccer with it.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Does UPS care that your package is labeled fragile at Le Batard Show? I don't know how this landed on you guys the other day, but Amin El-Hassan, when he was talking to Stan Van Gundy, and we don't have this with anyone else around here, every time there was an interaction that Amin wanted to start with Stan Van Gundy, it started with the word coach. Coach this. And Deion Sanders walked out of a media gathering the other day because they were calling him Dion instead of calling him coach. And it happened with somebody else too. Wasn't there a second person who was offended that they weren't calling him coach?
Jason Garrett.
Jason Garrett was offended that who wasn't calling him coach. I barely called that guy coach when he was coaching, when he was the head coach of the Cowboys. Nobody did. He was a puppet for Jerry Jones.
Apparently, I think it was reporters who were calling him.
Yeah, it was like an introduction, like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" It's like, "Oh yeah, call me coach," and I think it turned out to be a little tongue in cheek, but also partly serious because Jason Garrett doesn't really do jokes.
I don't think of Jason Garrett as a joke teller. Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Does Jason Garrett do jokes? What is Deion Sanders doing?
I was going to say, is this as offensive as calling a major league manager's coach? Because they really take offense to that. I remember you telling a story about you calling Renee Latchman coach.
Yeah, they don't like coach. They like Skip. Managers don't like coach.
Why can't we just call them coach? Why are we making such a big deal about this? Like they're coaches.
Because get over yourself. Like get over yourself with your title. Like it's not doctor is earned through several years of schooling. You know, there are things that merit the title that you're given. You know, your highness, Mr. President. Like these are distinctions that, like, coach. Like, get out of here with like people who are wed to the title of I must be addressed as coach. Like, get over yourself, please. I remember when I worked at Publix, the manager insisted on being called Mr. Like, come on, you're a manager at Publix. Like, I'm not going to bow down before Mr. Blank. Like, come on.
Well, I feel like it's the reporters being forced to call the people they cover coach that is the issue, Cody. Not like your average Joe off the street. If your average Joe off the street sees Jason Garrett and wants to call him coach, like whatever. But
we can also just call him Jason.
Right. It's like, oh, you're covering me. You have to call me coach. It's like, no, a reporter covering you doesn't have that relationship with you. Like, they call you by your first name. You're colleagues, basically.
It's funny that you say Your Highness, because it reminded me, and this might have been instructive because it was a long time before we developed the spirit of this radio show, but I think I was in Lillehammer. I'm going to guess it was Lillehammer, and there was a group interview with Prince Albert of Monaco on the bobsled. He was a bobsledder, but he was also royalty. And
It's also a penis piercing.
Is it really?
Prince Albert.
Did not know that. I was not aware that
Google
the Prince Albert. No, thank you.
Google it.
He's also a wrestler.
Went on a rabbit hole about his wife, by the way. We'll talk about that later.
It was indeed
TikTok.
in Lillehammer, by the way.
And it is indeed a cock piercing.
His Serene Excellence or His Serene Highness was the way that you were supposed to address him, and you couldn't talk to him. And he was just another bobsledder, and I wasn't respecting their format, so the moderators were getting mad at me, and I was asking like aggressive media questions like, do people bathe you?
Are you fed grapes?
Yeah, but I wasn't nearly respectful enough, and people were appalled by this, that I wasn't, I wasn't treating the bobsledder with enough serene excellence.
The other counterpoint to this is that, like, reporters got so offended by the coach thing that, like, they swung so hard in the other way, whereas, like, I will never call anyone coach ever. Bottom line, like, that's so inappropriate. I'm a reporter. Like, I'm too good for that. And I was like, okay, like, I get, like, not having to call someone coach. But last summer, I interviewed Muffet McGraw. I'm not calling that woman Muffet. She's Coach McGraw. Like, I can't, like, I'm terrified of her. I'm not calling her by her first name. She could be my mother. She basically is my mother. She's more of my mother than my own mother is at this point. She is Coach McGraw. Like, I can't call her Muffet to her face. You just can't do that.
I actually think it takes longer to become a head coach than it does to become a doctor. Like, talk to David Culley about how long it takes to become a doctor, and he'll be like, "Get out of here! It took me like 40 years to become a head coach."
How long did it take Jason? How long did it take Jason Kidd to become a coach? How long did it take Derek Fisher to become a coach? Long?
40 whatever years.
Me and Woody, also, it's 2021. Everyone's a doctor right now. Like, literally anyone on TikTok can be a doctor.
TikToks.
Yeah.
No, doctors are doctors. What are you talking about?
Debatable.
It's called a Prince Albert because the belief is that Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, had a penile piercing. You can still use condoms, by the way, so practice safe sex if you have a Prince Albert.
At Batard Show on Twitter, I want to update some polls here from the entirety of the week. I have not been able, thank you, Mike, for all of that analysis. I appreciate. I could have done without the Google it. I don't think that any of that was necessary. I believe that you are trafficking in your inner anarchy. But are you ready, Billy, to do some of this polling that we haven't tended to this in a long time?
How far back are we going to go? Pre or post Rainforest Cafe?
Ooh,
that's a long time ago. Let's start.
Pre.
No.
Yeah, come on. Why? It's good stuff.
It's like 10 days ago.
Wasn't that long ago.
Rainforest Cafe?
Rainforest Cafe happened this week.
That was not this week. That was not this week.
It was late last week, I believe.
Okay. All right.
Just do this week. Don't go before. Just start right there.
Start at line of demarcation.
I found one.
The belt loop around the Fupa. Like, that'll be the start of the polls.
Oh, there's important ones here, though. I got a good starting place. Don't worry, guys. Ready? I'm going to do this as fake Stugotz or as me? Or
Fake Stugotz.
All right, thanks, Dan. Dan, the stars feel like something they give you if you've been on hold too long. 93% of the audience said yes.
That's a good question.
Is Rainforest Cafe overrated? 80.5% of the audience said yes. They're wrong.
You know what?
What?
We should make a rule on some of these. You have to have experienced the Rainforest Cafe to vote on it. A lot of people haven't been to a Rainforest
Okay, we'll make
Cafe.
sure that they present their vaccine
Someone is
cards
checking
when they
that, yeah.
when they we'll have somebody do that here in Meadowlark Media.
Because if you win,
let's
properly rated.
let's hire a poll viewer. We can't get voting right in this country, but let's make sure that anyone who votes on the Rainforest Cafe poll has actually been to the Rainforest Cafe. We need this poll to have integrity.
Will the Cajun pasta at Rainforest Cafe do damage to your stomach for hours? 92% of the audience said yes.
There are currently only 27 Rainforest Cafes. Only.
Hmm.
The math just simply does not work out
Dying
for the
breed.
amount of people that have voted on this poll.
Hard cookies or soft cookies? Big one here. 85.5% of the audience said soft cookies.
A whole lot of people were saying hard cookies, but dip them in milk, which makes them soft cookies.
Yeah. Is there a big debate in the cookie world if the Lorna Doone is a cookie or not?
That was Stugotz maximum pulling something out his butt.
68% of the audience said no. Can you ever describe any brand of cigarettes as the healthiest? 80% of the audience said no. Should the Rockies change their mascot's name to Bill? 80.5% of the audience said yes. Is anything you put in your face going to eventually catch up to you? 93.5% of the audience said yes. Is there a single eyelid between Brady and Dungy?
That
83.
photograph has been creeping me out for several days. It continues to haunt me.
83.4% of the audience said no eyelids. Is there anything worse than the sound of a spoon in a garbage disposal? 76.2% of the audience said no. Does your bowl need a good soak after frosted mini wheats are in it? 76.3% of the audience said yes. Is everyone always getting killed in the woods on Netflix? What's the record?
98.
Ooh, 94.8% of the audience said yes. Can you get 35% support on anything? 50.3% of the audience said yes. Would have been better if 35 said yes. But.
It would have been better.
Would you watch a documentary called Cher and the Loneliest Elephant? 79.1% of the audience said no.
Don't blame them.
Is buying a set of clubs something that happens when you have a kid? 51.5% of the audience said yes. Are there any eggs in the Flacco basket? 82.6% of the audience said no. No eggs left in the
I will
Flacco
never
basket.
forgive Diana Rossini. It's the only thing I remember about her initial appearance with us. She said she was all in on Flacco. And I'm like, what kind of analysis is this? You just can't be all in on Flacco.
Congratulations to her, by the way. Secret baby, Sadie.
Secret baby.
Would you ever volunteer to be a center? Chris Cody earlier volunteered to be a center for some reason.
It was strange. It was strange. He seemed to do it for pleasure.
Then fall started. 81.3% of the audience said no. They would never volunteer to be a center.
The left tackle all started
Don't
technically.
want to point fingers, but yeah.
Good teammate, left tackle. You were
She
the
was
left
fooled
guard.
by the
All
hard
started
count.
everybody but the center.
I was the guard and the tackle, actually.
Is Steve-O making the Jaguars? 54% of the audience said yes. Steve-O's making the Jaguars.
I love this sports poll in the middle of all of it.
I'm genuinely curious. I keep doubting that dude. I keep doubting that that's going to be a thing, but I guess it's going to be a thing.
There's some polls on here that I did not put up intentionally. Like, is the Tulsa football program the equivalent of being peed on by multiple people? Thought it was safer not to put that one up. Someone around here put it up. 84.8% of the audience said yes.
Every crew needs a wild card like Chris Cody.
Protect us there, Chris.
I was hoping that during the golden shower appearance, when we were talking about Tulsa football and Golden Hurricanes and whether or not that was multiple people peeing on you, I was really hoping that limited fake Dr. Phil, Tulsa linebacker, was going to make an appearance there at some point with something related to that. Maybe at the end of the polls, he will have something to give us to conclude this segment. Go ahead, Billy. Keep going.
Does a diet always start tomorrow? What's the record?
98%.
Oh, 95.5% of the audience said yes. Does the Fupa come out of nowhere? 83.3% of the audience said yes. Another rogue poll here. Should Don Mattingly have been managing the game just to please Billy Gill? Big one. 90.7% of the audience said yes, he should have been. All right. Do you know who the enforcer Arn Anderson is? 54.8% of the audience said yes. Do you imagine that Ryan Russillo is always at the Santa Monica Pier? 89.6% of the audience said yes. Do shipping companies care that your package is labeled fragile?
No. Wait, we figured out which one we're missing. And it's an important one. We never put up, is sharing the loneliest elephant easy to masturbate to?
Look at that judgment by me.
I was wondering where that was. I was gonna try and reinsert it myself because I was wondering where the question was.
I was gonna post it, and I'm like, you know what? Let's have some judgment here. Look at me.
Well, now you got to put it up.
Now you got to put it up.
Phrasing.
You showed
Sign
bad.
that one.
You put bad judgment in there, and I hope you're getting it ready for the big payoff of that Dr. Phil at some point. Go ahead, Billy.
96.3% of the audience said shipping companies do not care if your package is labeled fragile. Does Jason Garrett do jokes? 90.8% of the audience said no, he does not do jokes. Those are the polls.
Former Tulsa linebacker Dr. Phil, what's he got for us?
What are you doing? You're offsides. I love a good squib kick. Quick. Damn it.
I don't want this story to go away just yet because it is easy for the NCAA to make a ruling like they did yesterday, fining Baylor $5,000 and 4 years of probation, and for people to say, well, then there wasn't that much wrongdoing there, right? The NCAA didn't do very much. But no, what happened there was appalling. It was really wrong in a lot of different ways, and the NCAA just doesn't have jurisdiction over what feels like a whole lot of felonious behavior. So she's the co-author of Violated, Exposing Rape at Baylor University Amid College Football's Sexual Assault Crisis. And so I wanted to get the foremost expert, Paula Levine, on to talk about the specifics of what it is that happened at Baylor. So, Paula, I don't know how you felt about what happened yesterday, but I can see a lot of people just skimming headlines and saying, well, Baylor was exonerated then, right? Not that bad.
Absolutely not. As to your question, like what I thought, I mean, I wasn't surprised. And I know saying that to a lot of people, they were like, how could you not be surprised? Like, it was so egregious and they investigated for 5 years. But seeing what they've done in other cases, it didn't surprise me at all. Like they've been backing off from getting involved with enforcing anything related to sexual misconduct for years. And you could tell as the investigation progressed that there were ways that they were trying to sort of figure out how this could fit into the whole impermissible benefits realm, but it just didn't. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, for anyone to say that because the NCAA didn't punish Baylor more harshly, didn't punish Bryles at all, that means that nothing happened and that anyone was exonerated is false. It's absolutely false. It, as you said, is just that they did not have jurisdiction and that these violations that they called egregious in these actions that they called egregious in their report did not fit the category of NCAA violations.
Tell people what happened, Paul. As someone who's been investigating and writing about this for a long time, tell people everything that you think is relevant, important, and interesting about the things that happened at Baylor.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. Well, over a period of time, and the time period that people often refer to is 2010, 2011, to 2016, there were multiple women who reported being sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, physically assaulted by members of the Baylor football team. And it depends on where you look, how many of those there were. Was it close to 20? Was it close to 50? Was it more than that? I don't think we'll ever know exactly. It was a lot, and it was, in anyone's metric, far too many. And what happened was these women would come and they would tell people at Baylor, whether it was someone in judicial affairs, whether it was the police department, whether it was someone in the coaching staff, that, hey, this happened to me, and I'm not okay with this. This was, this player did this to me. And in many cases, nothing would happen. The report would not go up through the right channels, and the right channels didn't even really exist at Baylor. The women would be victim blamed. They would be, they would have a fear of getting in trouble. I mean, keep in mind, we're talking about Baylor, this largest Christian university, and that, technically doesn't allow alcohol. And so some of these women would come and they would want to tell someone that I was raped at a party. And the question would come up, are you drinking? Well, yeah, I was drinking. Well, okay. So then now you're in trouble for an alcohol violation. And so they would get punished, but nothing would happen with the far more serious violation of them being raped. And this went on for a very long time. And it didn't really come to a head until the fall of 2015, when player Sam Ukuwachu was found guilty in a criminal court of having raped a female athlete. And the thing that was really odd about that was that he had actually been cleared in a university investigation previously. And so that's what led everybody, Texas Monthly did the story that sort of started this all off. That's what led everybody down this trail of, how could this happen? And then as Mark Schlabach and I started digging further, and other media started digging further, we found out that this actually happened a lot. And so the end result was the university brings in this law firm, Pepper Hamilton, to do this investigation. And they find these allegations of rapes, horrible gang rapes, just women who were just horribly abused. And they go to they talk to the coaches, they bring in, as many people, victims as they can. At the end of the day, they find that there are some significant issues within the football program that basically allowed them to operate outside of the rules. But they also found that this problem was happening throughout the university. And that finding will become a real key part to how the NCAA makes its decision down the road. And then, as we all know, this culminates in May of 2016. The university fires Art Briles. It demotes Ken Starr, the president, and he eventually resigns. And it suspends the athletic director, Ian McCaw, and he eventually resigns. And it doesn't stop there.
Did it coincide with Baylor getting good at football?
It did. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was one thing that Mark and I pointed out in the book, is that the pressure to win, the pressure to bring in these guys and maybe look the other way at possible behavior concerns. Yeah, I mean, it absolutely did. I mean, they were getting better under Briles. They were having multiple winning seasons, going to bowl games during this time. And the profile of the university, the money that was coming in, this all coincided with this pattern of assault against women.
Was it a conscious soul selling?
I think a lot of people would say, in a sense, that perhaps it was, it's interesting. Yeah. So perhaps it was, but I also think that this progression this progression to be better, to be bigger, also sort of coincided with this stuck in the mud attitude of this sort of 1950s thought of how we look at rape. And again, this goes back to this being a Christian university. And one of the things that came out in the investigation was, this is a place where people in power weren't condoning people having consensual sex, to get them to the idea that there was violent non-consensual sex was happening was a leap that many of them just couldn't even take.
I'm curious, as you're following all of this and you've followed it, you've gotten to the roots of some of this stuff in a way that has to alter your life, Paul. I'm not even kidding. This is an unpleasant space to occupy, even as you're doing good work with the reporting, as you are again and again running into obstacles and walls and people not believing stuff. How wearying is it?
Dan, that's a question I get asked a lot. And it is hard to hear the women tell their stories. I mean, and in many cases, I may be the only person they've ever really told the full story to. As hard as that is, the part of this reporting that is wearying to me, that is grating on me, is then hearing all of the cases where the people who should have taken action, the people who should have been there to respond, the people who should have been there to help these women completely drop the ball. And Baylor is a prime example of that.
Art Briles, how much is he was blackballed for overseeing this poorly. How much has your reporting exposed on him being more than complicit, being more than just turning an eye the other way?
I think the biggest thing with Art Briles was, and I really thought the language in the NCAA report really hit the nail on the head. They used the word incurious. And not only did he not turn the other way, it was all these cases that were coming forward, the information that he was getting. Anyone in that position should have done more, should have asked more, should have been like, wait a minute, I'm hearing these things, like, I'm not going to just shrug it off and say, gosh, those are some bad dudes. And that's really what hits the nail on the head. There's a lot of talk from Briles' camp about him being exonerated through this. And there was a letter that he got from the university back in 2017. And it was a very narrowly worded letter that said he specifically did not deter a victim from reporting. He never knowingly played a player who had been found responsible for sexual assault. Those very specific things he did not do. But that doesn't even touch the iceberg of all of the other areas where he should have done more, where he put these people in place. He oversaw this program. And I appreciate the language in the NCAA report where it says, look, what he did, we can't categorize as NCAA violations, but there's a line where they sort of basically say, he failed to meet even the most basic expectations of how someone in this role should act. And that's true. That is absolutely true.
How does that happen?
I think it happens at Baylor the way it happens at a lot of schools. I mean, you don't want to know. You don't want to take responsibility for this. There's this, hey, I want to focus on the X's and O's, and I want to bring these guys in, and this is my lane. I think also one other way that this happens is I think sometimes the coaches will see players who have prior issues, and they'll take a chance on them, and they'll bring them in, and they'll say, you know what, I'm going to reform this player. I'm going to make this person okay. I mean, I went to the University of Nebraska, and I was there when Tom Osborne took Lawrence Phillips in, right? And was like, I'm going to make this young man, responsible. He's going to flourish under my program. Well, clearly that didn't happen. And that ended up very poorly.
It ended with him dragging a girlfriend, an athlete, down the stairs, several flights of stairs by her hair. That's how that ended.
That is exactly how that ended. Right. And then, and Lawrence was not able to succeed later and wasn't able to succeed in the pros either because of some of these problems that just kept coming up. And so I think you have that mentality, which, is somewhat admirable, but in reality doesn't play out. And then I also think you have this isn't what I'm responsible for. This isn't my lane. And, I don't want to know about these things.
We'll go higher then. The story arc of Ken Starr is rather remarkable.
Yeah, it certainly is. The coincidence of Ken Starr being the president at Baylor during this time just is never lost on me. And the NCAA report I found was pretty interesting because it was clear that they had talked to Starr, and Starr is someone who has not really talked about this much at all since this all happened. And he was definitely a role in this. I mean, admittedly, and among the people who were closest to him, this was never a priority for him, even though the U.S. Department of Education was saying it was a priority, even though sort of, you could look anywhere in the landscape of college sports at the time and realize that this was a growing concern. Ken Starr did not act on that. He gave, put people in charge of Title IX who had no real experience with it. And it was like not a priority for them either. And he was very supportive of athletics. He loved running out there on the line, on the field. He was very supportive of the program. And, one of the violations that they actually ended up getting punished for was a case where he got involved in an athlete and an academic issue. So yeah, he certainly had a role in this.
You were unsurprised by the ruling of the NCAA yesterday, but what should they have done?
Dan, that's a tough question. I've thought about that a lot in the last few days. I think my answer to that now is probably a little different than it might have been a couple of years ago. I mean, if you look at what's happened with the NCAA in terms of the Supreme Court ruling in the Alston case and the name, image, likeness deal, and how that sort of, takes away some of the power of the NCAA. If you look at the criticism that the organization has had in all sorts of other realms over the last few years, and the power of the conferences rising at the same time, I think there is a perception of the NCAA as an organization overall of having less power, less influence, less leverage, right? So the thought that should the NCAA do more in this area is somewhat of a conflict, because at putting them in charge of something so serious at the same time, their influence and leverage seems to be waning, might not be the best idea. Now, there's a lot of pressure after yesterday's decision came out. There was a lot of, I saw a lot of people on social media saying that the NCAA's membership does have the ability to make this something that they can enforce. And, coincidentally enough, Linda Livingstone, who is the Baylor president, was one of the members just put on this NCAA constitutional committee to decide the future of the organization. And during this conference call, she was saying, I think that this is an issue that should be on the table. This is something that the NCAA should take a look at. So, maybe that will happen, but is it the best thing to happen? Is it the solution to this? I don't know. I would love to see the conferences get more involved in this, simply because I think at the end of the day, they have a lot more leverage.
What did I fail to ask you that needs to be heard? What is something about the events of yesterday or your reporting that people need to hear that maybe I failed to ask you about?
One of the things I would say in terms of like why I wasn't surprised and how this is a pattern, I mean, take a look at what the NCAA did with Michigan State and the allegations with Larry Nassar and the problems that they had within their football and basketball programs. And that case too, the NCAA took a pass and said, like, look, this is not something that we can find under our violations. This is horrible. It's egregious, but it's not something that we can jump in on. And in that case, and then in some case with what's already happened with Baylor, you see some of the other entities that do actually have a lane in this taking some action. The U.S. Department of Education in both cases. And in Baylor's case, You've got the Big 12 that took action against them. And then in both of them, you have these cases winding their way through the Title IX lawsuits, winding their way through civil courts. So there are entities out there that do have an ability to take action that the NCAA didn't. Even within those processes, though, they take a long time and they are not perfect.
It requires leadership. You got to be willing to lead. It sounds like at every level here, what you're getting is a cry for help and a breach on every front. Leadership, every stage. No one wants responsibility for any of this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And one last thing I would say is as we look to all these regulatory agencies to step in on this, I want to put some responsibility on two other groups. One is the men themselves. And I think there's a lot of great things being done out there with educating these young men about how to behave toward women, how to be responsible, how to intervene when they see something happening. And then the last thing is the fans, the people who are watching, listening, the ones who have the money, who decide whether they go to the games, who decide whether they support the programs, who are out there on social media, who are making comments not generally very good about these women, about these cases. The fans have such a responsibility in this. And I just hope that after all of this, that they realize how important this is, that how damaging it is to these women and to these programs, and that they play a role in changing this.
Paula, thank you for your time and thank you for the hard work. This is a continuing theme around here with women who do the kind of work you do. It is brave work and it is draining work. And so I'm always interested in people knowing that you're furthering a cause with your reporting, but it seems an unpleasant way to spend your time absorbing all these energies. So thank you for the work you do.
Well, thank you for the attention to it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, but I think you have tennis elbow.
It's unfortunate.
All
So
right,
should I not do this motion? Should I not swing my arm? What do I do? Should I get a sling?
It went away on its own.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good though. I feel like I'd wonder forever if I just had like this pain that was there and then it just disappeared. I'd be like, what happened to that? And when is it going to come back? I live in fear of the pain coming back, I think.
You could have just ended it. You live in fear.
Yeah.
All right, Billy, you want to kick us off the way you intended?
Yeah, I mean, I have guys. I have an opinion that I think is not going to be well received, but it's been kind of like forming for some time now. But I couldn't say it. I felt like I didn't have the ability to say it for a number of years, and it's right around this year. It comes up every time. Little League World Series. I don't get it. I don't get the Little League World Series, and furthermore, I think some of these kids, and this is going to be probably divisive. Some of these kids are monsters. I think they're entitled monsters. I've been seeing some of the behavior on the field. I don't like what's going on. I don't like how they're showing up the umpires. The umpires, maybe not the best, but also, guys, you're like 12 years old. Get over it.
That was
it's not
a terrible
that important.
call. Are you talking about that one thing that went viral where the pitch was like on the ground and then they called it a strike? Terrible call.
Yeah, and the kid was showing him up at the plate with the big, wide open mouth. Ooh, I can't believe. Ooh, guess what, kid? Like your life's gonna get tougher than just a ball being called a strike. Okay, so like, why don't we start kind of getting some thicker skin now because things are gonna get tougher for you. Also, when I was in Little League, you know what I had? I had like a 14-year-old umpiring my games, or like a 16-year-old, not like a professional umpiring crew, and there were no replays. You just kind of dealt with the bad calls. That's called growing up. That's what happened in my childhood, okay? Like, you guys need to stop acting up and showing up these adults. It's incredibly disrespectful. Also, none of this matters. I understand that some of you, this is going to be the peak of your life and the most exciting thing that ever happens to you.
Whoa.
But get over it, okay, kids?
Whoa.
And the one today, the shortstop over there hopping up and down because there was another thing that was called a ball that he thought was a strike. Like, let's get it together and stop being disrespectful to adults. Entitled monsters is who's playing baseball right now. It's crazy.
Whittingham
also go to school, okay? Like, school's about to start. This whole thing that we time this out after summer's over, and then kids miss like a month of school so they can go play in Williams, wherever the hell it is. Enough of that. Go to school. Get an education. Because guess what? Like 4 Little League World Series players ever have made it to the majors. So, you know what? Go to school.
Whittingham was giving a big thumbs up in the Zoom here. agreeing with Billy's polarizing and divisive opinions that Little League baseball players are monsters and they should go to school and it's all overrated.
Well, I need a little bit of argument from Billy, and he convinced me on the monster subject. I was more going to argue on the merits of the entertainment value. I don't get it how this was like a highly rated event, and like I get it when it was kind of like the U.S. versus the world back in the mid 2000s. I think they still do that, but whatever. Like it doesn't register with me anymore. But I think Billy's got a great point, which is that this event has been televised for so many years now. The kids are self-aware. They know that they're being televised now.
Yeah, but
now.
These kids are playing in it for the first time. It's not like it's the same kids playing it every year.
I know, but still, like there's a recognition that this is going to be a television event and things will become viral. And so you show up thinking that, I'm going to make something of this, as opposed to kids who kind of went into it, just, all right, I'm going to go play baseball. And there's some cameras over there.
Do you know how many tournaments these kids have to win just to get to this?
How many of them are televised?
None. That's the point. This is so cool for them. I don't see these kids as like these pro
all I'm saying,
athletes acting all.
It becomes a performance at a certain point.
Okay, Billy. All right, hold on. Because Mike Ryan, fact checker, says it's a lot more than Jeff Burrows and a couple of kids that have made it from the Little League World Series all the way to the big leagues.
Wilson Alvarez made it. Jim Barbary, Jason Bay, Cody Bellinger, Derek Bell, Christian Bentecourt, Larvell Blanks, Sean Burrows, Kevin Cash, who's a manager now.
Worst manager ever.
Gavin Caccini, Chin Feng Chen, Jeff Clement, Billy Connors, Michael Conforto, Brian Esposito.
Conforto.
Well, Brian. Well, this is Michael Conforto. Stephen Fife, Jeff Frazier, the Todd Father, Jace Fry. I'm sorry, I did that phonetically. This is like when you call on the kid in class to read. Randall Grichuk, Ben Hayes.
What's Randall Grichuk up to? Just out of curiosity, as one of these examples.
He's still in the league right now.
Yeah, I think
presently.
you picked one who's currently still in the league.
Yeah.
What is he doing?
He's with Toronto.
Doing what?
Come on.
Man, how many times do I have to rebut this before you keep hitting me?
Look it up.
Yeah.
Look it up, buddy.
Okay, so 37 people have made it to the majors. I'm sorry. That's
Charlie
right. Let's
Hayes,
continue
Ken
to disrespect
Hubbs,
adults.
Eric A. Johnson, Scott Kingery, Keith Lampard, Adam Lowen, Carney Lansford. That's a pretty good one.
That's a good name.
Yeah.
That's a good
Vance Lovelace, Lance Lynn.
Wow.
Lance Lynn is
Still.
yeah, he's on my fantasy team. Jason Marquis, Lloyd McClendon.
Who's he pitching for now? The Cardinals?
Lance Lynn, I think, is with Texas. Or Jason Marquis is not still pitching.
Lance Lynn is, though.
Yeah, Lance Lynn. He's a White Sox.
I think he's starting the game tonight.
Yeah, in Field of Dreams.
Oh, Chris Drury won a Little League World Series. He went on to play professional sports. He went on to play in the NHL.
Not done. Bobby Mitchell, Max Moroff, Jim Pinkovitz, Francisco Pena, Yasmero Petit, Mark Picosada, Boog Powell, Jurickson Profar, Guillermo Quiros, Colby Rasmus, Brady Rodgers, Michael Saunders, Jonathan Shoup, Gary Sheffield, Andrew Stevenson, Carl Taylor, Ruben Tejada, Cleet Thomas, Hector Torres, Devin Travis.
So more than 4.
George
Now
Samus,
read the list of the ones that didn't make
Jason Veritek, Ed Vosberg, Dave Veers,
Ed Vosberg,
Dan Wilson, Rick Wise.
Thank you. That is not the way that I was expecting for us to end our work week. A glorious flourish at the end. Billy, do you feel any different about your opinion? These kids are in search of glory, and so many of them get there, like Carney Lansford.
Not at all. They're a bunch of brats. One of them just threw his bat. You know what would happen to me if I threw my bat? They'd probably take my bat away from me for the rest of like the month. They'd say, like, you know what? You have to share a bat with someone else. Why'd you throw that bat? That bat was expensive. That's what would have happened.
You know my biggest problem with the Little League World Series, Billy?
What's that, Mike?
It's weird that we're all watching 12-year-olds play baseball. So
No, I guess I'll address Roy, because actually I should have addressed Roy from the beginning. The uniforms.
Yes.
When they get to the elimination rounds, well, I guess it's all elimination round, but when they get to the real deal, the big dance, they all have uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
No real look to differentiate the teams, just a different color. I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that. If you were the Mariners and you started going through the Little League stuff, you keep wearing the uniform that brought you there.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I hate this.
It also just says like West on the uniform.
Yeah.
You're like, well, where the hell is West from?
You
Like
just
West
said-
is a direction.
You just end up representing a region. It's bullshit.
Northeast.
No, if the Glades Corey League White Sox make it to the Little League World Series, guess what? We're not the Southeast. We're the Glades Corey League White Sox. If we're Gigantes Orthopedics and we make it all the way to the finals, Gigantes Orthopedics is going to be repped on ESPN.
Damn right.
Gigantes Orthopedics. Where are you pulling that one out from?
I played for Gigantes Orthopedics.
When I played for Velda Farms. I was also the 14th. The red uniforms of Velda Farms.
I want to see a Red Berries baseball logo in Williamsport.
I played for Publix. The green team, and from Publix. I was also the 14-year-old umpire that Billy is complaining about. And I was corrupt. There were certain kids I liked better than others. And so I'd say, Frankie, after calling a clear strike a ball, Frankie, I can't let another one of those go by. You're gonna have to swing the bat. Like that catcher had the goods on me. Whoever was listening to me whispered to Frankie.
Also, I don't know if anyone that's ever watched these have ever been to Tamiami Park. The coaches do not speak to the children the way that they do on these broadcasts. Oh, good job, buddy. You tried so hard. Like, get the hell out of here.
They know
At
they're
the Little League World Series, they're not talking to the kids like that if they're not wearing a microphone.
That is so true right there. No one knows they're being televised more at those things than the parents, because you're so right, Billy. If you're playing in Flagami or Tamiami, there's a chancleta flying out of the stands at you, and it's not even your dad, it's your grandfather.
Do you know how worthless everybody told me I was growing up?
That was your experience with Little League Baseball?
I had an entire season where I failed to register a single hit. How do you think that impacted me several years later? One entire session was devoted to it.
A whole season? A whole season?
I was dragging Gigantes Orthopedics down.